to Technical RPA. This video I'm going to show you how we can follow the coding standards and guidelines using Python through various plugins. Usually we can write the code in real-time projects. We can write the code in Python using PyCharm, or else you can use Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code with Python interpreter. So when we write the code using Visual Studio Code, so before we are moving to the coding environment, so we have to install some basic plugins for code analysis, coding standards, and as well as handling errors and lending environments and following with the virtual environments. So these are all the things we have to create and make sure and update all the plugins. So before we move into coding in Python, here you can see, so this the Visual Studio Code I had installed freshly in my machine. So it's asking no Python interpreter is selected. You need to select a Python interpreter to enable features such as intelligence, lending, and debugging. So the main thing is you have to select Python interpreter. That is first step. So how you can select Python interpreter? That is Control-Shift-P. Here you can see. This is the way you can select on it. If you do Control-Shift-P, the Python interpreter, so you can select Python interpreter as Jupyter Notebook or Python interpreter as a virtual environment or Python interpreter as a Conda. So different type of Python interpreter you can select on it. So the main thing of Python interpreters are it will enable intelligence, so lending for coding standards, and as well as when you debug the code, so interpreter will help and guide you how to fix the code. Okay, when you do Control-Shift-P, the new interpreter we can select automatically and we can use on it. And the second thing is, here you can see how they are selecting Python interpreter. I will show you from initial level. Test.py. In Windows, Control-Shift-P only. You can configure the test, and once you select the test, the interpreter has been selected automatically. So once your interpreter has been selected automatically, then your class files and function files will run, and we can execute and we can fix the issues during the runtime. Also, before moving to Python coding, so what are the needful commands we can use in Visual Studio Code using Python? So here you can see in interpreter, so the main part of interpreter, Python select interpreter, it will switch between the Python interpreters version and environments. Suppose you are created some environment or version. For example, version you are created as 3.1. So this version for all your plugins whatever you installed. In last video I showed you how to import the plugins. So whatever the plugins you installed, the particular environment has to be adopted for all the plugins. So that is the main theme when selecting the interpreter. The second thing is REPL. REPL is nothing but that. So it is the interactive environment between Python and Visual Studio Code terminal. So here you can see this terminal. This terminal, the main thing of terminal is it will help to, so whatever you are debugging the task, the terminal will show you the errors, and as well as if you want to install any plugins using pip command, you can use terminal, and if you run the task, the terminal will show you the data which we are debugging. The third thing is Python run Python file in terminal. When we run the active Python file in Visual Studio Code terminal, so you can select run Python file in terminal. So in that case, you know, no need to worry about each and every time, because Visual Studio Code has been provided many interpreters like Python, JavaScript, VB script. You can run any files, but the first time when you run the file, you can select run Python file in terminal. The next time onwards, it will automatically run your Python system. The next one is Python select lender. So usually lender will help you with the debugging issues, as well as follow the main concept of Python is indentation. So I will show you the next video how the indentation will work. So in JavaScript, VB script, we don't need to follow indentation. So indentation means suppose you are entering one line and you are giving enter and go to next line, though the next line where which character has to start, which means which line of statement. For example, it has to start from 58 characters, start from 58 line of ending. So in that case it has to start from there, otherwise the indentation error will happen. Python is case sensitive as well as indentation sensitive. So that's why linding and REPL, so interpreter will help to overcome those issues. Also another one is format document. The format code, suppose you are using some formatting files, so using this formatter document JSON file, you can provide the separate formats for JSON or else some other formats. The next thing is Python configure test. So this is a test framework. So before writing the code, you can, for initial level Python learners, they can test it through configure test frameworks. Also you can see in Python, before you are going to writing the code, you have to install some of the basics of extensions, which means some plugins you have to install. So IntelliSense is one of the plugin. It will help you debugging auto completion, code navigation. For example, the indentation, for indentation level, IntelliSense will help us. Also it will help you check the syntax of Python, and automatically we can resolve through it. And linding, the second plugin is linding. The linding plugin, it will help you to get out the additional code analysis and as well as helping the debugging purpose. In Python, debugging is a main thing, and it will be the major part of coding. and third one is code formatting. So this code formatter will automatically format your code with auto formatter of black or auto pep methods. So I will show you how install the plugins will do through Visual Studio Code, and how these plugins will helping to interpret that code when we're writing the functions in next video. Also you can see debugging. So debugging, I already mentioned, debugging is the main thing in Python. So you can debug through your Python script, your function script, and web applications or multi-threaded process. And one more thing is testing. Testing is very important. So you can use PyTest or unit test or nose kind of plugins to test your Python code. Also one more thing, last time I shown you Jupyter Notebook. So Jupyter Notebook also will help create and edit up your functions as well as your render plots and variable visualization as well as data frames viewers. But one more thing is very important, the Python is very much adopted of environments. So there is virtual environment is available. For example, you are writing the code of the function. So whatever the functions you are writing, you have to create some environment for your code of the particular project. So here you can use virtual environment, V environment or PIP environment. Actually, the virtual environment is will help to create the code package, and PIP environment it will create the, so when you write the Python codes, so you always importing some packages. In last video I shown you packages like fuzzy date util, that type of packages. So if you want to import the packages into your Visual Studio Code, you have to write pip install date util. So that type of environments you have to create through Visual Studio Code using pip environment. Also Conda will help you to create another environment which is having virtual environment. Also one more available, that is PY environment, that also the same as virtual environment. Also the environment, the creation of private environments is important in Python. And the final thing is refactoring. When restructure your Python code with different type of variables, methods, and importing the methods and sorting the method, also classes, if you create the classes and invoking through base class with function. So this type of refactoring you have to plug in your refactoring plugins through Visual Studio Code. So it will help easy to write your code and integrate the code and run and extract and unit test the code with the easy way. So if you are not doing install the any plugins, that would be the lot of problems and errors will occur during our debugging. Thank you guys. In next video I will show you how the these different type of environments we can access, how the testing will happen, how we can write the different type of functions through Visual Studio Code. I already shown you through Google Colab and Jupyter Notebook how we can write the function, how we can execute the function. Now I can show you how those functions will write through Visual Studio Code. Thank you. Thanks for watching this.